Hello, everyone. I'm Helen. It's a pleasure to be here today and to have the opportunity to talk to all of you. I think days like today are special because people is obviously taking time off to share knowledge, to gain insights, and with that, all of us learn. You learn, I learn, for sure. I will be learning today from all of you. So thank you. I am back to an independent consulting place after being in a bit of a bubble for some time. And today I'm going to be sharing an alternative lens to look or to think about team topologies, because team topologies encompasses more than just the team shapes. And I thought that the previous track where Paula was explaining about Are We There Yet was very on time. I thought this is great because I find that, as she said, product management has been around for a long time. Platform as product has been discussed for a long time. The provision of services is something we have done, but somehow we don't seem to connect the dots. And often I find myself talking to customers and explaining, and I find that either they maybe don't fully understand or have not made this connection, or they think they do. And when they proceed to explain to me what they believe like platform engineering is about, is not exactly what they thought. So with that, I am going to take you back to a point in my life. So basically, years ago, I was in a bit of a chaotic space, work, life. I think we all may have been in that point. And one of the things that really stressed me was my commuting. It was a long commute, and I found myself in crowded trains, and I had to take a tram, a train, basically a long commute every day, every week. And I thought, I need to do something about it. So I started to think about what needed to change to help me with that. And with that, I thought, I'm going to replace my commute and I'm going to get a bike. So I did. And I was much happier. It was a small thing that made a big impact. But then one day, I was on my way back from work to Manchester. And as I got off the train station to head home, my bike was gone. It was just not there. I remember standing there, and it was quite cold, and thinking, maybe I left it elsewhere. I do get distracted, so that wouldn't be something that, it would be something I would do. But no, that was the place where I left it, and it wasn't there. So with my bike gone, obviously my plan had gone, my investment, my solution. But here's the thing. I thought I knew exactly what I needed. What I needed was a bike to get me from A to B. But what I did not consider was other aspects, such as the storage, security. Am I getting the right solution, and am I doing it the right way in accordance to my needs? But I didn't because I was overloaded. But the thing is that when we provide services, when we build platforms, in organizations, we tend not to consider customer needs. And this is something that Paula alluded to. But what we also tend to ignore is the fact that in the same way that we as a platform team don't know what we don't know, customers don't know what they don't know either. See? So this is when we are creating services and enabling them with technology, we need to bring the customers on that journey with us. And please note, I'm using the word plural, customers, because they're all different. They're not all developers, or are they? They may not be. So we need to consider them. We need to explain what the tech cannot do. We need to understand the context. We need to get close to the customer, walk in their shoes, whatever expression you want to use, but it's about making sure that what we build has a purpose, that it does add value, that we don't waste our time, that we don't waste the customer's time, and then just start with empathy and not assumptions. And that kind of brings me to my next point. which is share the why, not just the what. See, we talk about platform as a product. Products that are successful share something which is, there is an understanding of what the product does, but there is a story around it. Why should I use product A versus product B? Why would it, what's the value, but what will be the value for me as a customer, as a user? In a way, I think there was a bit of a fail, to be honest, in product design when I went to get the lock for my bike. Because I got this lock, and there was like lock A, lock B, lock 3, whatever. But I wish there had been something to say, hey, you should get this one, it's more expensive, but I tell you why. And that wasn't there. So we need to replicate that when we create these services that we are creating for platform customers. And that comes with empathy. We need to find a way to build a bridge between our technical talk, our customers, and get closer to them. The next thing I want to think is about iteration. Iteration matters. And the reason why I think this is key is because sometimes we concentrate a lot on the problem. And the problem, or working out the problem, is halfway. But that does not mean that we should come up with one solution or one service and stay there. It needs to iterate. And I did not iterate my thinking when I got my bike. I just didn't do it. So, because solutions are the backbone of services, we need to ensure that the solution iterates, the service iterates. So if you're sharing the what and the why, you need to iterate on that too, and you need to find mechanisms to present that. It may be a wiki, it may be videos, but it needs to be continuous. You cannot say, this is the service and this is the value, then walk away, and then don't talk about it anymore. This is why there needs to be continuous focus on the solutions and the services that you're providing as a platform. Sorry, I keep looking back, I don't know why. So, and all of this comes also from a product mindset. I'll touch on it a bit later, but talking about iteration, it's interesting how in technical organizations, we are well aware that we are talking all of the time about scaling systems and improving and, adopting new products, adding new clouds because we're now multi-cloud. So, but we don't iterate the teams. I don't know why, but it is true. So the customers evolve, the technology evolve, the regulations evolve. I don't know. UK was EU, Brexit happened, regulations, etc. All changes continuously, but the organizations stay static. We expect that the people stays exactly the same way they were and continue just providing the services, even though the services changed. So that's something we need to keep in mind. So there I was. My bike had been stolen. Once I did my crying and I got over the fact that happened, I needed to expand my horizons. I had no bike, but I was definitely wiser. This pushed me to rethink. I didn't have the mental space, but I had to create that mental space now to think about what was it exactly that I needed that would meet my needs and expand my horizons and look out. And as I did this, something interesting happened. I started to see things that I hadn't noticed everywhere. So signs about make sure that your bike is secure by the British police. Articles about locks. Statistics on how many bikes have been stolen in the area, etc. I started to see storage solutions. Why didn't I think of that when I got my bike stolen? And I started to see people walking with these folding bikes that they could take everywhere. But I hadn't seen nor considered that as a solution. So I have a question now for all of you. Have you had this experience where all of a sudden you start to see things that you hadn't seen before? Like you bought a new car and now everyone has the same car. The reason I'm mentioning this is because there is a name for it. So does anyone here knows the name? Yes, it's a bias. Thank you. So, a frequency of illusion. So basically, we experience or we're exposed to something, and then we start to see it everywhere. That's what was happening to me. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because it's a cognitive bias. So you probably know where I'm going now. This is a bias, and then when our teams are overloaded, with complex processes, with no space to think, they have no space to innovate, and they don't have a space to question why they do the things they do, and how could they do them differently. The thing is, cognitive overload triggers bias. And it's not about saying, oh, bias is bad. Bias is not bad, it's good. Bias is normal, it's part of our lives. But when bias goes unchecked, it creates bad habits. And with those bad habits, you trigger bad ways of working. And then you guessed it. Bad ways of working then get you to no flow, and no flow gets you to no value. So we need to keep track of this. And I know that today there is some demo for temperature, which I know is a tool that is close to that. So I'm very looking forward to learn more about it myself. So before I move on, I just want to say biases ultimately shape how we do things, how we go on about things, and in organizations, they will shape how teams take decisions, how teams do their governance, how they decide to apply their controls or not, and what do they align to or not. So it's super key. The way that it reflects is things like we have a pattern, we're going to reuse it, we know the context changed, but who cares? Like, they will be fine. We're not going to talk to the customer about it. Or we as technical people know that this that we published maybe in our internal development platform is fine as is. We don't need to iterate on it. That's an anchoring bias. Another example could be we are always done it like this, and this is probably the most common one, a status quo bias. Or maybe I don't need the other team, I'll do it myself. And that is the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I couldn't resist adding the with AI, because that seems to be the thing now. Like, we don't need anyone. We don't need, AI will do it all automatically. So then, based on me being much clearer about what my needs were, I had a rethink, as I said, and I made a decision. And that's when I got my Brompton bike. So I got a folding bike, and I was super happy with it. My dog was really intrigued at why I kept staring at this bike more than him. He wasn't happy. But I did try to incorporate him by trying to get him in the basket. It didn't work. But anyway, I was much clearer. I got my Brompton bike, and I was set. With this, me staring at my bike, I got fascinated by it as a product. I thought, what great design. Who built this? How did they design it? How do they do it? And then I thought, is it me that I'm a bit of a weirdo? Or is it other people like this? So I started to go, let me find out more. And then I was fascinated to find that there was so much. There was, where do I start? I'm going to tell you a bit. I started to see parallels through my findings with what was a product, with what are platforms and the solutions or services that we provide. So my Brompton is made of steel. They now have Bromptons that are titanium, etc., etc. But for the process of engineering this steel Brompton, usually when bikes get manufactured is mass welding, but with Bromptons is brazing. And this brazing technique is a technique that they decided needed to be done exactly in a way, so they train their staff in-house. And that was the first parallel I saw. Oh, so they're building a capability in-house. This is great. They must have then a team, an enabling team of some sort, that trains people on how to brace the bikes. Then I learned that over 1,000 parts that make up the Brompton have been designed for the bike, in-house. Because they designed these parts, guess what? They had to design their own machinery. And because they designed their own machinery, they had to design their own testing to go with the machinery, but still comply with regulations, ISO, etc., whatnot. Then they have metrics, which I pulled from public sources. They measure quality. They measure the speed on which a bike gets built, because it's all by hands. There is machinery, of course, but it's all by hands. And where did I learn all of this? Well, in the communities of practice. Yes, they have a community of practice. You can join, you talk about your bike, you can do things like compete on how long it takes you to fold it. You know, the thing is, they're getting a space where people can share their enthusiasm, learn about nerdy facts, but then also challenge. And then say, hey, Brompton, why have you not done this? Or we think the handheld bars should be positioned or something like this. And they are gathering that feedback and they're acting on it. Isn't it that what we want to do with our platforms? I read somewhere that you could consider the Brompton factory as not a bike manufacturer, but just an engineering firm that happens to make bikes. When I read that, I thought, yeah, it makes sense. That's why I can see it so much, the parallels between like software engineering and the creation of this product, which is the Brompton. The other thing they did is, and I mentioned iteration before, they didn't create one model and then walk away. They iterated, and they're still doing so. They have now a new one, the G1, because some people thought the wheel was too small, or they wanted to get it off track, so they've come up with a new model, a new product. And they have also discontinued things that the old models have, because they know they're not working as well. And it's exactly the same we need to do with our portfolio of services, whatever that may be. Iterate. So all of this then took me to, okay, so I found all of this huge ecosystem. Oh, actually, and before I move on, I took specific things out of their website because I just found them fascinating. See here, it says the Brompton roller knot machine, a deep dive into our latest machine, designed and developed from the ground. But it's this bit that got me. Discover what it can do and why. You see, before, I said to you, it's not only about the what, it's also about the why. So they're not only saying, oh yeah, we built this machine, but they're saying why. Why is it needed? Why should I care as a Brompton owner about them and having that machine? And this is the same that people go through with change. We tend to communicate the what, but we tend to not do so well on the why. Why should I use this service? What is in it for me? Why has it been designed the way it has been designed? I do think this security control or whatever is nonsense. But perhaps if you explain to people why that's there, then they will see it differently. If you don't, what tends to happen is people is not happy, they get a bad experience, they go elsewhere, only to find that the elsewhere is not working anyway, because actually they needed to do that security control that they wanted to avoid. But spend time from the beginning. There is an interesting stat on change management, which is a benchmark. And I think Manuel alluded to something about why and communications, and it came to mind. And it's, you need to repeat something from 5 to 7 times for it to land. 5 to 7 times. Sounds a lot, but this isn't, I'm not making it up. This is benchmarking studies. Maybe that's why, as we are children, with our children, we need to repeat the things so many times. I don't know. With adults too, but it is a fact. So communicating once isn't good enough. You need to do it, and you need to do it in different ways, because we all obviously get exposed and understand or internalize information differently. You know, what works for me may not work for you. The way a developer wants to understand something is not how the CTO wants to hear about it. If I work on finance, I want to know about my numbers and the costs. I don't want to know about the pipelines. So let's adapt how we also communicate and how we inspire people to change. So with all of these finding me about this, I want, okay, this is an ecosystem. My next question was, how are these teams then organized? When I saw those metrics. And then I got this video, which you can find on YouTube from the Brompton side, when they show some insights into the factory. And there was a lot that was shown there. The teams are organized in a specific way. Does this resonate? So that they have a value stream that they own end to end. They have teams that train them. They collaborate. And they have specific ways or ways to interact that have been defined by how they do the manufacturing. Sorry. Something that is super interesting, I thought, was that when it's going through the process, and as you're doing your bracing, you actually will stamp the part of the bike that you worked on with your initials. I just find it, I immediately went to check my bike to find the initials, you know, of the person that made my bike. And see, you can make another parallel there, a no-blame culture. They're not saying, put the stamps there so we can tell you off. No, the initials are there, so when something goes wrong, if something goes wrong, they know at what station it happens, and they can go back and rectify it and improve from it. So then I saw, okay, fascinating how this team's organized. And they gave a little bit of an overview of their design, bracing, hinge manufacture, auto brace, quality control, paint, pre-assembly, line assembly, dispatch. This could be like pipeline, couldn't it? It's exactly the same. So I thought, so you could map that to Team Topologies. Like, imagine it. Obviously, I'm making this up, but let's say the factory is a platform team. Let's say each of those are stream-aligned teams. Are they? Could they be? I don't know. But then I know for sure that there is some collaboration in my head that will need to happen between design, between the bracing and quality control to know what is it that the quality of the check-ins that they're doing. I know there is an enabling team fact, because on the website they're very proud of it, on how they enable their teams and how they train their braces in-house. But I also know they have an auto brace, and this is a machine that they created for specific scenarios, and you have to be specially qualified to use it. So in my head, I'm thinking this is maybe a complicated subsystem team. I don't know. I'm making it up. But it's about applying the concepts to something real or tangible. And I'm guessing there will be some facilitation between the stream-aligned team and the complicated subsystem team. And then I added some collaboration here between pre-assembly and line assembly. But then I thought, but maybe it's not like that. Maybe it's more than one platform. Because let's face it, organizations don't have like one platform. It's multi-layered, always. And it's about, obviously, the abstraction and layers of abstraction. So here I thought, okay, I'm going to say that design is a platform in itself, and that perhaps they align to regulations, and they perhaps do discovery for the products. I don't know. And they have it inside that platform. And that once the designs have been established, they pass them onto the, as a service, to the bracing, hinge manufacturing, paint, and auto brace. So they manufacture the bike, which is the guys that were on the video before. Oh, sorry. Sorry. And then, oops, there. Yeah. And then there is another platform team, which is the one that assembles the bike, sends it to you because you can get it by post. You don't have to collect it. So all of this is to say engineering excellence alone does not equal service excellence. So we need to build that bridge and ensure that we consider the solutions, the products, the services, the people. So there was a mention before about mapping all the whole, and this is true because what is of value to me as a developer is not what is of value to the customer that is consuming, is not what is of value to the maybe other stream-aligned team outside that is getting this. Ultimately, is mapping to something, and it also needs to mean something for the business as an organization. So then, that got me into thinking what else may be out there that is like this. And I mean, to be honest, after all that riding in the bike, you get hungry, don't you? So, so what else is like this? And I thought, I was actually at an event about product management. And in that event, someone was talking about different products and how they've been founded, and that inspired me to look into it. And I started to look into McDonald's. So I'll tell you why. This that is on screen is the first logo of McDonald's. I don't know if anyone has seen it, but there is a movie about it. It's on Netflix. So quick raise of hands. Have you seen this movie? Oh my God, more people have seen it than I thought. Damn it. I was hoping it was like a surprise. But anyway. In the movie, one of the things that I found fascinating is how ultimately the product is not the burger, which I always thought that's what they created, right? But it's not. It's the speedy system. And that's what they called it. And to think that they did this in 1948. So Paula had a timeline that went back. I think I'm beating you to it. 1948. No, but they created a system that they call the Speedy system, and this is why they had that logo, and that chef was the Speedy. And what that system was about was how do we manage to get a burger from beginning to end in a way that flows, and we can do it in 30 seconds. And that's how fast food was born. Whether we like burgers or not, is the fact that they created this system, and what fascinated me is how they went on about it. So in the movie, there is this clip. They took a tennis court and they drew the kitchen. And they drew the stations between the kitchen as you would do with your teams. And then they pretended they were making burgers, and they went through iterations to see what worked best. And they did it again and again and again, and they measured the time it took, and they removed blockers. They identified what was not working until they could coordinate and orchestrate flow. That's exactly what they were doing. And at this point, they are in the kitchen applying the Speedy system. And then they're showing how it works and how they managed to get the creation of the burger through all of the stations in exactly 30 seconds and achieve the burger that they wanted to achieve, which I think at this point he's very proud to show how it comes out, and it's taking 30 seconds. So then that got me thinking, I'm going to apply Team Topologies to this. Because why not? So when you're hungry, you have different ways to be served, right? And this is because customers have different needs. Some people want to sit down in the restaurant and have a burger sitting, but some people don't. they want to go through a drive-through. It's the same with platforms. Not everyone wants to consume or get the services exactly the same way. You need to cater for different people, and you need to offer it in different ways. So I have the drive-through and I have the counter. And then I obviously have a kitchen. And the kitchen is, through these stations that I was showing on the video before, making these burgers to order, and there will be stations between, like stream-aligned teams, a grilling station, a salad station. Again, I'm making this up. I actually not been in a kitchen in McDonald, but there's a lot of information that you can find. And yeah, when you get a bit excited like me about these things, you spend too much time reading into things, details about like McDonald's and whatnot. Between that kitchen, they have an enabling team, which is how they train stations. And let's remember, because they iterate, because it's products, they now have a vegan burger. They didn't have a vegan burger, I don't know how long ago. So they had to come up with a team that would train, create a new station, train people, don't mix ingredients, etc., etc. It's a continuous evolution. And this is exactly the same we need to do with our services. But then I thought, okay, where do they get the menus from? And what about self-serve? And that's where I thought about the kiosks. You have kiosks that are like an internal development platform. You go and select, and the kiosks have been designed. Why? Because there is menus in there. There is recipes that someone has come up with. There is promises, I think is the word in Syntasso, that have made sure that whatever needs to be there is there and is accessible in a way that is self-serve and accessible to people. And then they will have a stream-aligned team, so that's the platform engineering element of it, that is also fulfilling orders as a service to the drive-through and to the counter. Maybe they have another platform that is the menu makers, maybe not. Maybe that is part of, or maybe that is separate, because they will have, being food, regulations that they need to adhere to. They will need to do discovery, they need to know which burger to come up with, what is working, what is not working, etc. It may not be a separate platform, but it may be. And then there will be collaboration with the kitchen, the recipes, the facilitating. There may be a complicated subsistence team between the menu makers, especially maybe if they're coming up with a new recipe. Maybe that's what they did when they came up with a vegan burger to start with. And I'm guessing they don't need that anymore because it's been a success. So that would have changed. And then there is other platforms. There will be providers too, with the ingredients that they use, which I'm guessing will change per country. I mean, it can get really complicated, right? Each country will have its own regulations that you need to adhere to. Providers, etc. And I come along through this time and time again, engaging with customers, because customers are now multi-cloud, have a mixture, have a hybrid setup. Not every organization was born in the cloud or in modern. So we need to consider that. And I was talking yesterday to someone about mainframes and how, well, they are a thing, whether you like it or not. So we need to be able to adapt. So lastly, I'm going to say, as a last takeaway, think in plurals. When you think about platform, don't think, first of all, we know that the platform is not the technical platform. I was talking recently about how platform engineering does not mean I have engineers on a platform technical stack, which some people seem. Platform is the mechanism whereby you provide a service. And then think in plurals. Platforms are in an ecosystem, it's a multi-layer system, and when you think about your customers, think in plural too. Customer is not only developers, there is more than developers. You can take Team Topologies beyond, and you are ultimately, whenever you are providing something that adds value, then you have an opportunity to pack that as a service. And then the customer may vary. And then you need to adapt the way you talk and the way you push them or help them with the change that will bring whatever is it that you're setting up. So I actually don't even know how I'm for time. I think I am. So thank you very much. I hope that brought a new perspective. I love talking in analogies. It's the way I understand things, and what I strive is to help others to just find inspiration in other places. So thank you.